My husband and I, both 35 RN, met in college. We fell in love and got married 8 years back. I gave birth to our daughter in 2020. My husband is a professor at this med school. He's a doctor himself. My friend, Sarah, also works in the same college and she's in the same department as my husband. Few months back, in December, Sarah took me out for lunch and told me that she suspected something's going on between my husband and this med student, 25F. She claimed she'd seen both of them give yearning looks to each other. She said that she's known my husband for so long and she'd never seen him talk to any other woman like this, that he'd been so aloof around women all these years, but it's just different with this one girl. In that moment, I had laughed at her face. I remember telling her that she's jumping to conclusions based on these supposed yearning looks. That's why I didn't tell you before, she had said. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt and he looks at her the way he used to look at you. I remember the exact words because they stung. Internally I was breaking down, externally I just smiled and told her that she's probably overthinking. That night, I casually mentioned this my husband. I was laughing at the absurdity and I expected him to join in and deny the wild possibility that he's in love with a student. But he didn't. Instead, he looked at me, all teary-eyed, and said, "I'm sorry. I can't get her out of my mind. I've tried, trust me. I should have told you sooner. But I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to." I asked him if he cheated on me. He said no. He said he didn't even talk to her, nor did they have any contact outside of college, and that he completely understood how morally depraved it is to try and pursue a relationship with a student. She wrote him a letter about a year back, confessing her love for him, and he had told her that even though he was into her, nothing would come out of it. Apparently that was when the yearning looks had started. I honestly don't remember how I reacted then. I think I just started packing and came to live with my parents along with my daughter. I've been living with my parents since then. Half of me wanted him to come and beg for forgiveness. But he never did. He comes by sometimes to spend time with our daughter, but that's it. He never talks about the elephant in the room, nor do I bring it up. I keep checking that girl's social media. She's insanely beautiful, almost doll-like, and intelligent. I can't help but think that someone like him should be with someone like her. He's always been very good-looking, and I'm more of a plain Jane. She's the Meredith to his Derek. I don't know what to do. What do I even tell people? I don't even know who I am without him. Some part of me still wants him to come back. TLDR husband just admitted that he's in love with this young woman who also is student. She loves him too. For those who don't want to read the boring details, in short, I have decided to go ahead with the divorce. Long story, the day I made the post, I met up with Sarah for dinner. I thanked her for telling me about my husband and the student, and also for being such a good friend. I asked her about my husband. She said there's nothing unusual. He's been a bit withdrawn and aloof with everyone lately, but that's about it. Yesterday, I went over to my house unannounced. He was there alone in his office. I told him I wanted to talk. He said he'll explain everything. So apparently, this woman has had a crush on him since 2 years. Her friends ship her with him. She would stare at him during her rotations and would blush whenever he looked or talked to her. Back then, he didn't think much of it. Many girls have had crushes on him and he always ignored it. About 1.5 years back, they were in the same research group thing. I don't know how this works, but there were 5 to 6 people along with these two. Because of this, they had to spend some time together working, and it was then that he started noticing her. He went into detail about how he was impressed with her intelligence blah 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 and her beauty blah blah blah. The moment he realized that he had a crush on her, he dropped out of the research thing. This was a year ago. Few weeks later, she gave him the letter confessing that she has feelings for him. The first thing he told her after reading it was, "You can get into trouble because of this." She didn't care. She wanted an answer. "Is it all in my head?" she had asked, to which he replied with, "It's not just in your head, but nothing can come out of it. I hope you understand." That was the last time they interacted. According to him, the yearning looks Sarah described were more of awkward eye contacts than anything else. He told me that even though he is still attracted to her, he has no intention of pursuing any sort of relationship with her regardless whether we stay together or not. He said he's willing to change his job and go to therapy. I told him to give me some time to think about it. To sum up, this has been going on since 3 years. Not once did he mention anything to me. The student and him spent a considerable amount of time last year working on the research. He told her he liked her back, lol. He's still very much attracted to her, and that's why I've decided to go ahead with a divorce. I don't think I can trust this man again. And a relationship without trust isn't something I am interested in. I've told my parents about it. They're not exactly on board, but they're still supportive. I've also contacted my lawyer about the same. It's gonna be a long process, I believe. That's it. I believe this is my last update. There was a time I didn't think I'd survive. Not just through the day, but at all. There were nights when I sat alone in the dark, holding a bottle of pills, convinced the only way to end the pain was to end it all. For 15 years, I gave everything to my marriage. I stayed home to raise our children, to create a home where they felt loved and safe. I sacrificed my dreams and my career to support the person I trusted most in the world. I believed we were building a future together. But while I was holding everything together, they were tearing it apart. The betrayal didn't just hurt, it shattered me. My husband and my brother's wife. The person who I watched bring my niece and nephew into the world. Who cried with me, celebrated with me. Who I thought was my friend. It wasn't just infidelity, it was betrayal by someone who was supposed to be family. To know that the people I trusted most had been lying to me, conspiring behind my back, it broke something inside me that I'm not sure will ever fully heal. And now, she lives in my old home. The home where I raised my children. The home where I poured my heart into creating memories, warmth, and love. She's there now, living the life I built. When the marriage ended, I thought I'd finally find some peace. I was wrong. They refused to pay child support, leaving me to shoulder the full burden of raising our children alone. I begged for even the smallest bit of help, for $5 so our youngest could have pizza at school. It didn't matter. They said no. Meanwhile, they were driving around in a brand new $120,000 truck. I hadn't worked in over a decade. My life had revolved around our children, our home, and our shared dreams. But overnight, I became a single parent with no income, no job experience, and no support. To make matters worse, I was left with $30,000 in debt owed to the government, money that wasn't mine to owe but had been pinned on me anyway. The anxiety was crippling. There were nights I couldn't breathe, days when I couldn't eat. I felt like I was drowning, and no one was there to pull me up. Some days, the only reason I got out of bed was because my children needed me. I didn't want them to see how close I was to breaking. But it was impossible to hide the truth forever. My youngest, just 10 years old, finally said what I knew they were feeling. I don't want to see them anymore. They don't care about us. Hearing those words broke me in ways I didn't know I could still break. I promised myself then and there that no matter how hard it got, I would never let my children feel abandoned again. I've realized that the person I thought I knew, the person I married, wasn't who they pretended to be. Their world revolves around themselves. Their needs, their comfort, their image. The children they helped bring into this world are nothing more than an inconvenience to them. I'm still standing, but just barely. Some days, the weight of what's happened feels unbearable. But when I look at my children, their resilience, their strength, their love, I know I can't give up. They are the only good thing to come out of all this pain, and I will fight with everything I have to give them a better life. This is my story. It's not the one I wanted, but it's the one I have. And even though it's messy and painful, I'm still here, writing it one day at a time. Because my children deserve a mother who doesn't give up. And that's a promise I refuse to break.